Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Nick Lugo Show. I am Nick Lugo, and this is the place where I uncover the success tactics, practices, and principles of some of the best people that you've seen and some of the best people that I know, and hopefully so that you can apply it in your own life. Today, I brought on Maurice Bretzfield, and he is such an incredible digital marketer, such an incredible person at personal branding and growing yourself. And today we are going to uncover the 5 lessons, tips, tricks, all of it to, well, grow your personal brand. If you're starting a podcast, this is your place to really discover what are the 5 things that I need to do. Because, well, the thing that I realized in my own personal journey is that marketing and quality are not the same thing. If you release quality content, if you release the best thing ever and nobody sees it, well, it's probably your fault. You probably didn't market it well. And, well, this is exactly what Maurice Bretzfield is here to help you with. He is a mentor. He's been mentoring dozens, scores, hundreds of people on score.org, score.org, and he's been doing an incredible job with it, just allowing for people to really pursue their jobs, pursue their things, whatever it is, and he's mentored them in the marketing aspect along the entire way. So he has a lot of tactics, practices, and principles and habits that you could use in your life to really increase your marketing tactics. I know I learned so much, and one of the big things is resources. He has a lot of resources, and as anytime you're going through this podcast, know that the resources are on his website at mauricebretzfield.com/resources, I think. And, well, you can find it in the description below. So there are many actionable steps to be taken from this podcast. There are many things. If you don't walk away from this podcast with something to have learned, then or some actionable step to take, then, well, you have not gained anything from this. But there is so much that, well, you will find something. So make sure throughout this podcast to check out the links in the description below, check out the sponsors, and make sure to like and subscribe. Without further ado, Maurice Bretzfield. So yeah, the reason why I'm a little bit hesitant about studying abroad is just because I feel like in my career, everything feels rushed. I was just talking to one of my mentors, his name's Eric Koster, this morning, and he was just, he's like, I play the long game. Everything that I look for is 8, 9, 10 years in the future. And everything that all of my plans are 2, 3, 4 months in the future, tops. So I don't want to study abroad because I feel like that's going to put me behind. And I would love to hear your advice on that.
My advice is if you have the opportunity to go offshore, to go to a foreign country, do not hesitate 1 second. Go. Just go. It will broaden your perspective. You'll come back a different person because you'll have that perspective on how other people live rather than just looking at it from an American point of view. Okay, you begin to understand geopolitics a lot better. You'll be able to understand how other people live, and it will be an experience that will be invaluable to you and one that you'll never forget. I just recommend travel abroad for anyone who has the opportunity to do it at any time, especially when you're young.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things
I have a bunch of friends, and I went to South Korea when I was 24, and I ended up spending 5 years there. Changed my whole outlook on the world.
How so?
All of a sudden, this was 1971. I'm a bit older than most of your audience. And I began working there and I'll never forget driving across the one car bridge that crossed the Han River from the airport in downtown. And it was 71, and America was beginning to form plans to celebrate our 200th anniversary in 1976.
Okay.
And I came across the bridge and I looked around and I thought to myself, my God, these people have been here 5,000 years and we're talking about 200 years.
Yeah.
And I immersed myself in the Korean culture. I learned about the Korean people. It was almost, I think, a year that I was there before I met another American or foreigner.
Wow.
Because I just hung with the Korean people and learned about them and learned what makes them tick and learned what was important to them, and got a offshore geopolitical view of how America is perceived and how we perceive ourselves, and seeing us through the eyes of other people was an invaluable lesson for me in life. Everything is not about rushing into a career. At the age that you are and most of your listeners are, chances are that what you're thinking about today is not where you're going to end up. Events are going to occur. Things are going to come your way, opportunities. And so, you get out there and you travel and you mature and grow as a person.
Yeah,
In a way that you can't do just by hanging around the United States.
Yeah, so I spend a lot of time talking about just researching the people who've been successful, right? And that's one of the things that I really like to do. And a lot of them definitely, admittedly, have had some sort of is foreign experience the right word? More of like a discovering different cultures, whatever that is. So it doesn't
There you go.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be, like Tim Ferriss spent a year in Japan as an exchange student when he was 15 years old, things like that. But also just people discovering new cultures, coming into different ways of living and ways of life. So
you just answered the question, didn't you?
But it's annoying, it's annoying because I think, and this is probably something that's going on inside of my mind where I'm saying, you know what, I want to have everything done, fulfill all of my plans within the next 3-4 months. And it just,
you can't.
Well,
you can't. And let me tell you something else. You're gonna have your whole life to work. You may never have another opportunity to go travel and see the world.
Maybe.
Whenever you get the opportunity, take it. I think everybody who graduates should take a year off and just, go bum around Southeast Asia or India or someplace exotic and live on the cheap and just, meet the people.
Backpack your way through it.
Yeah, absolutely. While you're young and you can still do that kind of thing. Go to Nepal and trek in the Himalayas. It's cheap and it's an experience you'll never forget.
Wow. Well, one of the reasons why I brought you on here is because you are an incredible mentor. You do SCORE mentoring on score.org. And first of all, tell everybody exactly what score.org is.
Yes, SCORE is a national organization funded by the United States Congress through the Small Business Administration. There are approximately 10,000 mentors in the United States, mostly people who have had a long business experience in 350 different chapters in all major cities. And we offer our services pro bono to any U.S. citizen who wants to start a business or who is in business and has a question about that business or needs direction. I have all kinds of clients, from younger people to older people, and in all kinds of business endeavors, all kinds of different kinds of companies. And it's fun for me. I get to meet great people, and I get to talk about digital marketing, which is my specialty, and help them with their businesses. It's so gratifying. It really is, when people are successful with my help.
Yeah. So tell me.
So that's what SCORE is all about.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the mentoring that you do, and tell me, what are the types of people that you mentor, and what is the type of marketing that you help them with?
Yeah, well, I help them with digital marketing, with online marketing, which is what I know best. I have a young client who's got a skincare products line that she started several years ago that she's looking to expand. I spoke this morning with a woman and her marketing assistant who's starting a preschool academy for early learning. I mentor a film director in New York who specializes in fashion films. I have another client who's a a naturopathic physician who's putting her business online. She wants telemedicine. There's been a major development in how medical care is being dispensed in the United States since COVID happened. All of a sudden, medical practitioners can get paid by insurance and Medicare for online sessions or telephone sessions, which when you think about it, unless doctors got to put hands on, doing it, consultations without having to drive to the office and wait and all that stuff, is very effective. And so she's putting her practice online. That's what she wants to do.
Well, it's cool, like when I interview you and we obviously talked a lot before this podcast, and you're very interested in digital marketing. Like you like digital marketing. You spend your time reading digital marketing, and this is just something you'll do in your free time. So what I'm trying to figure out, and this is just, out of all these people that you work with, you've worked with so many people, I'm trying to figure out some tangible tips, some really good marketing tips for people to take out. So we're going to try to create a list of 5. Okay. So first thing, name one thing that digital marketers getting started, the biggest misconception and the biggest problem that people struggle with once they get started.
I think that, once people get started, a lot of people get overwhelmed by how comprehensive the whole field is. And there's lots of moving parts, from search engine optimization to search engine marketing, social media marketing, and all those various disciplines. And so I always recommend that people starting out pick a discipline that they think they're interested in, whether it be content creation, writing, or as you're doing a podcast. I mean, you're well on your way. You've started a podcast. Yep. And podcast is all about is all about marketing. It's all about putting yourself out there. There are ways to optimize your podcast pages, as we've discussed. Yep. I think that the first basic thing that people should learn is the importance of keyword and keyword phrase research. There are plenty of tools out there that can aid you and help it. Keyword research puts us on the other side of the screen from users. We're able to ascertain exactly what terms people are using to try and find us, or our products, or our services, or us. And so what language people are using in their search queries gives us the opportunity to learn about them and answer those search queries. If somebody says, how do I become a digital marketer? And you have a post on Google that says that you've written, that's been indexed by Google, that answers that question, how to become a digital marketer. The better the quality of that article, the more opportunity you have to rise high in the search rankings and bring someone to your website.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, can you find that stuff for free? Because a lot of the stuff that I see is, especially for YouTube, I use this plugin called vidIQ, VIDIQ, and they have sort of like a paywall behind it. You get like half free content, but at the same time, most of it's
right. Well, the same is true of most of these. Answerthepublic.com is free, but it limits the amount of information you can get. Yep. Ubersuggest, UberSuggest.com gives you limited but free but limited information. SEMrush, SEMRUSH, the same way. You can demo this. You can demo the application, but then you got to start paying. These are companies who are heavily invested in their technology. They've spent a lot of money to develop it, and they're in business too. They need to get paid.
Well, it explains it. Like a lot of stuff that I see is like, people actually, like on YouTube videos, they'll put some words in, all caps, like success or principles, or, like some of those types of words.
So Google considers, as they're scanning your page, a bold or strong word to be of higher importance. It's a word that you want to emphasize. And it helps Google understand in a small way, because there's over 200 ranking factors that Google uses, but it helps to explain in a small way something that you're trying to emphasize.
That's just so funny. I mean, yeah, like that's a really great way to start. Like you said, it was too comprehensive, too complex, right? And
Yeah, pick a niche.
mhm,
Search engine optimization is required of every website. So Google has a thing called Google Garage that's just full of all kinds of information about how to use Google. Because Google's intention is that every time someone enters a search query, they want that user to get the exact answer to their query in the first listing.
and they have an incentive to do that too, right?
Well, Google wants to satisfy users. The more satisfied users they have, the more ads they sell.
Exactly. So
You know,
so they're
so
gonna
Google
provide.
Garage. If it's Facebook or Instagram you're interested in, social media marketing, Facebook has something called Facebook Blueprint. Just Google it and you'll find it. So those are good places to start.
Okay. And is all this on your website? I know you keep a very long list of.
Yeah, you can go to my website, mauricebretzfield.com, MauriceBretzfield.com,
And that's going to be in the
click,
description.
and click on resources.
Perfect. Yeah, because I feel like that's one of my biggest struggles. Like, I personally have not done much marketing in the past, and the biggest problem is I don't know where to start.
Well, I've just told you where to start, haven't I?
Well, trust me, I was on a
And
call.
I don't care what this approach is what is going to be one of your next questions, I'm sure, after our initial talk.
And leave me up.
But it's imperative. I don't care what your future goals are or what your future endeavors may be. Personal branding, telling the world who you are and what you are all about, is essential. Register your name as a URL. If you can't get your exact name, you do not want anything but a .com, and you don't want to use dashes in the URL if you don't absolutely have to. So, if your name's John Jones, you might, or Jane Jones, you might register the URL Meet Jane Jones, because chances are JaneJones.com is already going to be taken.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
it's not, register it immediately. Cost, $15 a year to register a URL, and it will become one of your most valuable assets. So here's what happens today. You make an application or for a job or for grad school or for anything. Don't rely on your resume anymore. Your resume is only it's anteing up in the process. It's just your first bid. And because what people do today, I mean, what do you do, Nick, when somebody introduces you to somebody new, or the doctor says, I want you to try this medication, or.
mhm.
You Google it.
Yeah.
And if somebody says, somebody applies for something, you're going to get Googled. And what's out there about you is going to define you in those persons' minds.
Yeah, and it gives you a sense of legitimacy, right? Like
Gives you a sense of legitimacy. It shows that you've got energy, that you've taken time and care to do this correctly. If you Google me, Maurice Bretzfield, there's over 1,000 references to me.
That's incredible.
Well, I've been at this 25 years. There used to be 2,000, but I haven't worked as hard at it. And they drop off as articles get old and that kind of stuff.
So I think that's a good way of looking at it. So number one, it's too complex. Simplify it, right? I really like that. Number two,
Yeah, well, it's the fact of the matter is that it's all very logical. And it's like anything else, man. Do you remember the first time you ever tried to swing a tennis racket, or swing a golf club, or swing a baseball bat?
Yep.
Yeah, man, if you'd stopped after the first swing, you know, you got to keep swinging
Yeah.
and taking your shots. You know, if you don't get up to bat, you got no chance of hitting a home run.
And that was one
So,
of the things that really killed me. And I'm starting to realize this as time is sort of going on. It's just I could make the best possible content. Like I can make such good content. And you know what? Like I'm very proud of a lot of the content that I've made in the past. But if I don't know how to market it, if I don't know how to show it to people,
if people can't find it, it's worthless, right?
and of course I want people to find it, but if I'm not doing everything I can to put it in people's hands, then whose fault is it, right?
So, if you're in dental school and you're going to become a dentist, okay, you've got to also become a marketer. Everybody needs to be a marketer today. What I tell everyone I have the opportunity to tell is that digital marketing is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because for the very first time, we have all of these tools available to us, all these platforms, Google, Facebook, whatever. We have the ability to reach people in a way that we never did before. 20 years ago, the only opportunity a dentist had was to run a Yellow Pages ad or spend a lot of money mailing postcards to everybody in the neighborhood or something like that, whether or not it was going to be effective or not, because the big difference is that digital marketing, you can test everything before you invest in it.
Yeah.
It's not like printing 10,000 brochures where if there's a typo on it, it's already too late. You can change a website every minute of every day if you want. You can modify it. So all of these things are available to us. The curse is because they're available to every other dentist out there that you've got to do it to. You have no choice. So, if you're going to be a dentist or an astrophysicist or whatever, if people don't know about you, you need to tell the world about yourself. And you need to consider yourself a marketer, no matter what you do.
So now that's my next question. So I always felt, and this was in the past, I always felt a little bit immoral about it. It felt somewhat immoral to, say, you know what, I'm going to sort of, it feels almost like trickery because we don't have a system in which the best person is broadcasted, right? That's just not the way it is. Quality is also sort of mixed in with these things like marketing and who has the best thumbnail and the best title and, the best blog posts and uses the best SEO and all of these things and who has the most money, of course, right? So it all felt a little bit immoral to me. So let me ask you, so how do you feel about clickbait and people who use clickbait to put their brand out further?
Well, there's obviously tons of it out there. I find it annoying. I don't like it any better than anyone else does. Mm-hmm. And that's why we rely on Google to sift through the wheat from the chaff and to list. Google employs a part of their system is known as EAT, E-A-T, E period, A period, T period. Expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And those are factors that they're looking to determine whether to rank someone high in the search returns or not.
Yeah.
I don't think marketing is immoral. I'm a very moral guy. I have very, very defined sense of morals. And I believe that you can use marketing for good or for bad. If you're gonna be a bad person and use it that way, there's nothing I can do to help you.
Yeah.
Or there's nothing you can do to help yourself. But it's all about. There's a wonderful book called the Hype Handbook.
Hype Handbook. So you
the
got
Hype Handbook. Hang on a minute.
Go for it.
I don't know where I put it. It's called the Hype Handbook. You can find it on Amazon.
How do you spell
it? HYPE Handbook, the Hype Handbook.
Got it.
And it's all about this topic. It's all about this. It's about using hype morally and authentically. I think the two major watchwords that we have to keep in mind today are one, authenticity, because there isn't a human being on the planet who doesn't have finely tuned bullshit antennas at this point. You can smell it coming a mile away.
Yeah.
And so authenticity and empathy. You've got to be empathetic with your audience. You've got to speak to them. You really have to understand who your audience is today or who your clientele is today and walk a mile in their shoes and be empathetic.
Yeah.
So authenticity is, Google Eat, expertise, trustworthiness, and,
Well, so that's okay. So that's another great question. So how do you allow for somebody, especially in the digital marketing realm, right? It seems like there's a set system, a set logical system of, okay, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. But how could you sort of craft in this sense, in the digital marketing sense, some authenticity within your, the people that you're mentoring?
well, I think that in the people I'm mentoring and what I'm teaching and how I conduct myself, okay. If you look at my personal website, you'll see that I stayed up front about who I am and what I do, what I have done in my life. And, if you're not authentic, people are going to figure it out really quickly and they're going to reject you. Simple as that. There's too easy to compare today, too easy to find other people. That's why you imagine a scenario where you are in need, you've been in business for 10 years and you need an accountant. You got an accounting problem.
Okay.
And you go to breakfast with your best friend and saying, man, I got this accounting problem. Do you know a good accountant? And he recommends Jerry Smith. And if you don't do it right there on your phone, you're going to go back to your office or wherever your desk is, and you're going to Google the guy.
Yeah.
And you're going to see what's up there. And if it either rings true and honest and satisfies you, or if I'm looking for, Jerry Jones or Jerry Smith, chances are that Bob Jones is going to be listed there too. And so I do some comparative shopping, right there, and decide who I think is the right guy for me to pick up the phone and call or to email.
And that's one of the things, like, I'll look at a website and I'll just say, that is a professional website.
Okay.
This person's got their stuff together, right? Just
Okay.
first impression. And then some people, you're right. Like, I'll look at them and be like, come on, like you put no time into this website, or this website's from the 1990s. You really haven't updated anything in 20 years. Like, this is really bad. And you're right. It does influence my decisions.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And what somebody is saying on that website. Sometimes we'll tolerate a site that is simply constructed because the information on it is so good.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at some of the real experts in especially academics, a lot of them have just simple blog sites that aren't very pretty, but they're just full of great information and it answers your questions. And you say, okay, this guy's legit.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I've noticed is that it needs to be clean. Like, I'll look at something, I'll be like, that's just too clunky. There's
Right.
too much going on.
Lots of white space, lots of open space.
Yeah.
Keep it clean. And that raises another subject, what I call online hygiene, keeping it clean online. If there's negative stuff out there about you or a bunch of photographs that were taken at some drunken frat party, you need to do the best you can to create your own content that pushes that negative stuff down, and it will eventually disappear.
Interesting.
By creating really good content up on top, on top of it.
There was actually something that Tim Ferriss did, which actually blew my mind. He wrote an article that was called Tim Ferriss Spam with an exclamation point, or scam, SCAM. And, like just then like semicolon and some self-promotion thing, or just something that was on his blog. And I was like, why did he write Tim Ferriss Scam as his title? And it's obvious, right? It's obvious. If someone looks up Tim Ferriss scam, the first thing that they see is the thing from his own blog post. So he literally,
bingo.
Yeah, he controls the market.
Bingo. There you go.
Ingenious.
I would put up an article or blog post or something that says Nick Lugo scam, cover your butt.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things that I've noticed. Whenever I try to look up a company, right, just whatever it is, every time I try to look up that company, I say, is it fraud? Is it scandalous? Is there any problems with that? The first 5 things that I see are all from that same company's website, and they figured it out. They know. They're like, you know what, this guy's
They're
not,
working real hard at it.
and nobody goes to the second page of Google. Nobody does it.
Nope. I forget the exact numbers, but the first listing gets, I think, a third of all the clicks on page 1.
Wow.
First listing on page 1. And it drops precipitously from there. It's very interesting. It drops straight down until you get to the first listing on page 2, where it spikes up just a little bit and then falls off into the abyss.
So then that's the question. So what do you do? So, I've heard a lot of references to Lord algorithm, right? Like people see this algorithm as a god and, like this is, you sell your soul to Lord algorithm and all of these things. What exactly should people do to really, to really nail down the algorithm and get towards the top?
Study search engine optimization best practices. Google Garage will help you do that. Create lots of good content.
Well, I'll tell you.
That's really the thing to do.
Yeah.
Just the way you're doing with your podcast. Now, when you get some optimized pages for your podcast, those things are going to start to rank.
Yep.
And be all over the place. And you're going to have Lord knows how many pages out there that, if a year from today you've got 50 pages ranked on Google for your podcasts, individual podcasts, so just pick a number, 50.
Mm-hmm.
They're all going to index, and whoever you want to go to grad school, they're going to look at that and they're going to say, "Wow, this guy's really been productive."
Yeah, that was one of the things. I looked up the Nick Lugo show for the first time ever earlier today. Like I just looked up and I found, like my Apple Podcast link was there, and then one other like critic, like it was just like a what has he done type of thing, and sort of it kind of indexes me a little bit, and that was it. And then the rest was just Nick.
You should be Googling yourself once a week.
Yeah.
And seeing what's there.
Well, that's what I really noticed. I was like, I never really cared about those things in the past.
Oh, you need to care about that because everybody else does. Who the hell is Nick Lugo? Boom, 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 boom. Oh, keyboard. Go to Google and who's Nick Lugo?
Yeah, that kind of killed me. I was like, you know what? I really, one of the greatest pieces of advice that you gave me was transcribe all of your podcasts. So I've been spending, a lot of time, or you told me this on Friday, or Thursday, but yeah, like all my podcasts are transcribed at the moment, and you're right, every single one of them should be out there. And if
I just ran into a new platform this morning called Clever, CLEVER.FM, that works pretty much the way Anchor.fm does, which is a free platform for making podcasts. I think you use it.
Yep.
Clever automatically provides you with a transcript.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Artificial intelligence is changing everything, Nick. Getting transcripts done today, you can use Otter.ai. There's a couple of others. But that kind of stuff is becoming really easy.
Wow. I never realized, I post this transcript. What is it going to do for me? That's an extra website page. If someone looks up, for example, Maurice Bretzfield, right? I'm going to have a transcript of this podcast. If somebody looks up Maurice Bretzfield, then my name's going to pop up there.
Well, then there's going to be something under my name that says interview with Maurice Bretzfield that hopefully somebody's going to click on. And guess what? They get introduced to Nick. Yeah.
And it's absolutely incredible. So tell me, as I go along this process, I'm just getting started on this whole digital marketing thing, what problems am I going to struggle with? So you said in the beginning, most people struggle with too much complexity. Then they don't have a personal brand. We'll call that number 2. Number 3 is something like they're not authentic. They haven't really figured it out.
Can you interrupt this? I have to take this phone call.
Go for it.
Now, if the Dodgers win tonight, everything will be perfect.
Well, that's what we do. We prioritize health on the Nick Lugo show.
Oh, hey, man. I
Yeah.
just got, just for the audience information, I just got wonderful news from a doctor. I'm
Wonderful.
perfectly healthy. Yeah.
Perfectly healthy. And that's
Yeah.
absolutely incredible.
Yeah. You can see the smile on my face, huh?
I could feel it. I could feel it in like your shoulders just dropped.
Yeah. I'm feeling good about it now.
Awesome. So now,
where were we?
we'll ride the wave. We'll ride the emotional wave. So, so let's say I begin my journey. Okay, I go through it. Life was a little too complex for me, but I'm starting to handle the complexity. What problems am I going to run into next?
You're going to run into what kind of problem? I don't know, but you're going to run into them. And so but they're easily solvable problems. They're not. This is not rocket science. It's complex, but we're not doing brain surgery here. And so all the answers are easily found on Google to whatever the question is that you may have. Which brings me to the idea that I believe that the one essential skill people need today is to become real good searchers. Learn how to search. The more precise your searches are, the quicker you're going to get the answers to whatever those questions are. And it's all out there. There are several newsletters you should be following. I suggest that you read Search Engine Land and get to know that one. There's a new one that I just found that is absolutely sensational called, I'll get it for you here.
Is this also all on your resources page?
I have not added this one because I just found it's called Raisin Bread.
Raisin Bread.
Yeah, you'll remember it, right?
Yep.
The Dynamite Marketing, digital marketing newsletter. Search Engine Land, Marketing Land. Follow important people in the space. Read a book called Epic Content Marketing by Joe Pulizzi, Pulizzi.
Why? What's so special about it?
Oh, it's just how to create content in this world and what it needs to be. It's just a really, really outstanding book.
That one I might have to order myself.
It's on Amazon.
Wow.
Follow Joe Pulizzi. Follow the people who are thought leaders in the field. Rand Fishkin. Watch Whiteboard Fridays on moz.com, moz.com/blog, and look for Whiteboard Fridays. These are 10 to 12 minute lessons on specific topics within digital marketing. There's tons of resources out there for you to learn from. Learn. These are skills that will be invaluable for you for the rest of your life.
So let me ask you, the mentality that I've always had for this has always been I could sort of outsource it, right? Maybe I'm not good with the marketing piece, but I could just kind of outsource it, give it to someone else, sort of things like that. But you're sort of making the case that no, this is sort of vital. This is something I should just add to my tool belt and call it a day.
Absolutely. Whatever you do in life, you have to also consider yourself a marketer. I mean, I'm talking to people all the time, jewelry designers, and for instance, and I tell them that they go, "I'm not a marketer. I don't know anything about marketing." Well, you've got to be today because every other, a whole bunch of other jewelry designers are learning this stuff and doing it.
Well, that was really cool. I had on this lady. Her name was Wendy Friesen. She literally in the 1990s she started Wendy.com. WENDI.com. Like she's that old, and and she's a hypnotist, right? So she's just your average hypnotist. I wouldn't call her, especially back in the 90s, there was nothing special about her. She definitely wasn't the number one hypnotist in the world, but she's been able to make millions and millions from selling her online hypnotism and all these things. And now because she's got so much clout and people following her and all that stuff, now she's one of the top. Now you have to book her for $6,000 a session. And
Wow. That's
it's
a great example. All right. Here's a woman who's a hypnotist
yeah,
and who learned to market herself and is now making serious money because I guess her hypnosis skills probably grew some, but not as rapidly as her marketing skills grew.
yep.
And if it weren't for marketing, she'd just be another hypnotist out there that nobody's ever heard of.
Wow. So okay, so one of her tactics, and I'm trying to get into, a lot of the tactics. This is the one that's really killing me. A lot of creative things that people do because you say it's all logical, but at the same time, like one of the things that Wendy did was she would, before it was the VHS tapes, and she would ship the VHS hypnosis tapes to some people, and on the box it said, learn where they got this box at wendy.com, and free marketing, right? For everybody who's delivering the package, as the box is going in transit, there's marketing along there, right?
Absolutely. Every time you make a brand impression.
Yep. Tim Ferriss.
Every opportunity.
Yep. Like Tim Ferriss, when he wrote his book, what he did was, he wasn't sure what title to come up with. So he essentially spent $200 he had different titles for different, and
he tested them.
And he just tested them and he brought them along together with subtitles. And Google would take the title and the subtitle and it would mix and match them together. And whichever got the best title and subtitle combination, that one was the 4-Hour Work Week, which
it's called A/B testing.
A/B testing.
A/B testing. So before digital marketing, he didn't have that ability to do that. He would have had to put together a very expensive focus group or something like that, or hire some very expensive people. Now you can test those things at will. You test A against B. A outperforms B. You dump B and you try AC. And C outperforms A, and then you try C and D. And you keep testing these things until you found perfection.
So what I want for you to do right now is I want for you to blow my mind a little bit. So
okay.
So I know A/B testing is pretty basic. I've actually heard of A/B testing before. Okay. What other tactics are there out there that people use that are highly complex, highly tactical? You don't even need to go deep into the woodworks in it, but just what are the tactics that they do, and how does it work? How do people become successful with it?
Yeah, well, testing. I hate to be redundant, but testing. We test everything. Okay, test a landing page, test an ad, test a call to action button. Sometimes green outperforms blue, or blue outperforms purple. Who knows until you test it and find out, because everybody's situation is individual. Everybody's audience is different.
So is that possible? Can I do that?
Yeah, you can be doing it every day.
So I go on, let's say, nicholaslugo.com, because that might be my new, website name. Okay. And if one person goes on the same exact website and another person goes on that same exact website, they could have a different call to action, a different type of button, or does it have to be on two different websites?
No, you can definitely do two versions of your landing page.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It starts, for instance, with an ad on Google. If number one, Google AdWords is pay per click, PPC.
Yep.
So unless somebody clicks on it, you don't pay anything. So if you put up an ad and it's not getting any clicks, number one, Google's going to dump you from that ad, because they want performing ads, because when an ad performs, they get paid. And if it doesn't perform, they don't get paid.
Yep.
So say you've got a performing ad and it sends people to a landing page on your website and they bounce right off of it. They go right away. You know that there's something wrong with the landing page. If they stay on the landing page, which has some call to action always, click here, try now, buy now, whatever it may be, and they don't click on it, there's something wrong with the call to action. Or you're at a point in the funnel with that piece of content where it says buy now, but the customer's not ready to buy now. They want more information. So you run one buy now, one more information, and you see where the action is. If the more information button is getting more action, then you know that you have someone that you've got to further nurture down through your funnel.
Okay. I see that all the time. People
Right.
they're like, oh, this is the next stock market crash. And then they don't put you into buy my thing. They say, watch this 40-minute video where I explain to you exactly what it is.
Look, here's a rule of thumb. If you find it spammy, your customers and your potential users are going to find it spammy as well.
Yep.
I hate that kind of stuff. I hate these long pages about 98 reasons why you should buy this book or this training manual or this training course or whatever it may be. I won't play with those websites. You either present the information to me concisely, you convince me that this is something I need right away, or hasta la bye-bye, baby.
Well, that was my problem. So I fell for that stuff. 17, 18, 16 years old.
Yeah, you don't anymore, do you?
I don't. I saw one of them the other day and I actually laughed. Like I thought.
There you go. Okay, so experience. The same reason why you should travel overseas, for the experience.
I guess so.
For the experience. Think about, what you learned about not clicking on those kinds of links. You had to learn it.
Yeah. I mean, my friend, she lost like $2,000 because,
No, number one, if you get an email or a message or something and you don't recognize who it's from, do not click on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do not send any money to anybody on the internet who you don't know who they are and what it's really all about. Just don't do it.
It's like just being intelligent 101.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't get scammed, guys.
You walk into a grocery store and you want to buy a pack of gum and the guy tells you it's $18, something's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Same thing online. You got to sniff it out.
Yeah.
Make sure that the value is there.
I mean, it's just, when you said, we got to be good searchers. And I never really thought about that before, but I've been doing a lot of research lately. And I feel like my searching ability is, crucial. Like it saves me an hour. It saves me 2 hours if I search the right thing.
I want you to Google something. Google advanced search operators.
There's a platform for being a good searcher.
Oh yeah, because there's all kinds of modifiers you can put in there to get exactly what you want.
Do you do Google plugins like Google Chrome extensions?
I have a bunch of them, but most of them are for what I do professionally.
Okay.
I've got a thing called What Font that tells me what people are, what fonts are being used on a web page. I have a thing called Color Picker that tells me what colors, identifies the color codes for me on a web page. I use something called WooRank, WOORANK. That does a page audit for me.
How so?
It tells me what's good about the page, what I need to improve on the page, and where my errors are on the page to fix.
Wow.
And I'm using that all day long because every time I get a new client, the first thing I do is I check out their website. But you need to be optimizing your website using a tool like WooRank, and this is free. All three of those extensions are free, by the way.
Wow.
To make sure that you've optimized your site and that it's as good as it can get. It's one thing to look at a web page and see, oh, this is a pretty web page, and look at the pretty colors and all of that. If it's not built on a solid foundation, it's going to fall down.
Explain what you mean by solid foundation.
Well, the first thing, building a website is like building a house.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you need to do is you need to buy a plot of land, right? A lot.
Of course.
And that's your address. Yeah. www.nicklugo.com is your address. Mm-hmm. The next thing you do when you're building a house is you hire an architect who knows where the beams need to be and the what do they call them? The walls that hold up the house, where all those things need to be. And you need to do the same thing for your website structure before you start building it. So that's a specialty of mine.
Explain what you mean by that.
Means that if you don't have the right meta description, for instance, which is what Google shows under your URL on its description page on the search engine return page, people won't. Google's going to grab some language off of your site that may appropriately represent you or not. Okay, that meta description is your elevator pitch. You get 160 characters to tell people what your website is all about and what a web page is all about. How you structure your headings, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. All those, if you you can download and install from the extension store WooRank and check out anybody's website. So I would suggest if you want to learn how to structure the site, besides Google Garage, you can use something like WooRank that'll explain to you in detail what each of the elements of an optimized page or site are.
I love that. That one seems perfect because I do that for vidIQ for YouTube, right? Like they look at, okay, how is this person's SEO on their YouTube video, right? Was it good SEO? Is it bad SEO? It's essentially the same thing for websites. How good is their website? Is it strong? Is it weak?
Absolutely.
I love that.
The other thing when you're building a new website today, you build mobile you got to keep mobile in mind.
Yeah.
Because about half the search queries or more today are on the small screen, handheld.
I've been trying to make a good like title page, like, you click on my homepage and you see the Nick Lugo show podcast and maybe like the latest video right there, and I made it look so good for the desktop, but it looks like it's a complete botch on the mobile.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you got to optimize it for the mobile.
I got to find out for the mobile. I know. But any pieces of advice? I mean, you're going, and I'm really enjoying this. So run out.
Well, you told me you were going to have at least 20 questions for me, so ask me another one.
Ask you another one. Okay.
By the way, for your listeners, on the bottom of my website and in the footer, there's a link that says "question" with a question mark. And if you click on that, it'll take you to my contact page. And if you've got a digital marketing question, please submit it to me, because every time I get a question, I learn something new too.
I love that. I mean, this man is a mentor of over 40 people, 50 people?
Lots of small companies and people over the years have been doing it for many, many years. And
exactly. So he takes questions, but
I take lots of questions every week.
So give me your best story. That's what I want to see. So out of all the people that you've met, out of all the people that you've sort of managed and helped and have figured out the whole marketing scheme, what is your best story?
My most favorite story is Kenny Soto. All right. Kenny I was teaching a digital marketing class as part of an entrepreneurship program at the City College in New York. And one evening after class, Kenny came up to me and he asked me if I would mentor him. And we had a cup of coffee, and I said, what are you majoring in here? And he says, music. I said, what are you going to do when you graduate? And he really didn't have an answer, because he said, I remember him saying that he wanted to open a recording studio, but he didn't have the money to do it.
Okay.
And I started mentoring him in digital marketing. He signed up the one of the bars across the street from the university, and they were paying him to start to do some marketing for them. And he started doing digital marketing jobs, and he learned and he learned and he learned. And 2 weeks after graduation, had a nice 5-figure job. Nice. That he was hired for. And he's become I now rely on him. I'm on with him all the time, asking him questions, because he's learned so much about this and is making close to 6 figures now, being a digital marketer for a financial services company startup. So
what did he do that was so impressive? He
learned. I'll never forget going home that night and telling my wife I just met the most batshit crazy smart kid I ever met in my whole life.
Wow.
Like you, Nick, you're smart as a whip too. Okay.
Thanks.
And what I had to do with Kenny is I had to open up idea. I had to teach him to think about ideas and open up possibilities.
Yeah.
And he learned this stuff, and he's writing his own ticket in digital marketing today. Now, you may want to go in a different direction, but or whoever's listening is definitely going to go in their own direction. But I have 3 pieces of advice no matter what you're going to do. Number 1, find yourself a mentor, somebody you trust, somebody you can rely on, and somebody whose interests are in helping you grow and learn. The other is get some experience working for a nonprofit. Go volunteer your time. If you're volunteering your time at the right nonprofit, it'll be the most satisfying thing you've ever done. I've been doing it all my life. Starting in high school, I volunteered at the hospital. And today I'm a mentor. I'm a volunteer mentor with SCORE. So I've been doing it all my life. And the other is brand yourself personally.
Explain that.
Set up a website. Start contributing to other people's websites who are looking for guest post bloggers. Start a podcast. Nick, you can tell your audience it's really not difficult to start a podcast, is it?
It's very difficult just taking the first step. It's very difficult. I have so many people that are just like, I'm going to start one up sometime in the future, one day when it comes. All you got to do is just rip off the Band-Aid and it comes easy.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the difference between you and those other people is that they quit too early or didn't do it because they just found it, that they couldn't, discipline themselves to do it on a regular basis. But by the time you graduate and you go out into the world and either go to grad school and then a job and all that stuff, this podcasting that you're doing is going to be invaluable in helping people to understand who you are.
Yeah.
And imagine you've applied for a job and John Smith has applied for the job. You both get Googled. And Nick Lugo's got all these podcasts out there that are listed and all this digital marketing stuff. And John Smith doesn't. Well, who's going to get the job?
Yeah. And that's one of the things too, right? Like there's a reason behind that. And the reason behind that is, when you look at the person I was when I started this podcast and the person I am now, the person that I was not the type of person that could run a successful podcast. I didn't have the discipline. I didn't have the consistency. I didn't have any of that stuff. And I had to build that to consistently run this podcast and set it up properly. Okay. And that's the thing, right? So when someone says, oh yeah, they have a podcast and they have all this stuff online. It's not just, oh, they have all this stuff online. It says something about their personality. It says,
absolutely.
It says this person grinds. This person's consistent. This person's dedicated. And I like that.
So when an employer hires someone, they're taking a risk.
Yep.
And a large part of that risk is this person going to last? The last thing we want to do is on board and start to train somebody who then decides they don't like what they're doing and leaves. So the perseverance of having produced podcast after podcast after podcast, whatever that number may be, shows your diligence, your work ethic, and your perseverance.
And it shows that you're put together too, especially if you have exactly what you're talking about. If you have a developed personal brand, a developed website, you don't have to fumble to pull out a resume. You just say, look up nicklugo.com.
There you go.
Like that says something about you.
There you go. Oh. That's precisely it. So those 3 things are my advice to any young person today.
All right. I love that. I love that. There's, we were going for 5. I think we ended up hitting like 9 plus the 3 at the end. Maurice Bretzfield, thank you. And
it's my pleasure, Nick. It's an absolute delight. I love doing this, and you're a really good interviewer. So thank you.
Thank you. And tell them where they could find you.
They can find me at www.maurice, MAURICE, Bretzfield, BRETZFIELD.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And you can contact me through there, and you can go read all about what I do and what I've done with my life.
Awesome.
The last 25 years of it, anyway.
since the internet's actually been a thing,
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
And go Google me.
Oh, trust me, all your links will be in the descriptions below, especially all these resources, because I've written down 1,000 of them. And
you can also find me on LinkedIn. I work reasonably diligently on keeping my LinkedIn profile clean and up to date.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Go Dodgers. I got to go to watch a ball game now.
Good luck. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bud. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Nick Lugo Show with Maurice Bretzfield. To support this podcast, please give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or to subscribe to my YouTube channel. These things help more than you know. And to end it, I'll leave you off with some words from Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice in Wonderland. Who in the world am I? Ah, that's the great puzzle. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you next time.